The Ziggo Dome in Amsterdam erupted into a scene of unprecedented hysteria last night when BTS's Jimin, set to deliver one of the most anticipated solo concerts of his career, was suddenly joined on stage by fellow member Jimin, an appearance no one officially confirmed, but everyone had whispered about for hours. What began as a night dedicated to Jin's long-awaited European stage return became an emotionally charged, history-making reunion that left over 17,000 fans gasping, sobbing, and screaming in unison. Why was Jungkook absent, and how did Jimin manage to keep his arrival in the Netherlands completely under wraps until the very last moment? Those questions remain unanswered, but the shockwave it sent through the global BTS fandom will be impossible to forget. By early morning, the atmosphere outside the Ziggo Dome had already reached boiling point. Fans, many draped in purple scarves, waving flags, and clutching official light sticks, had been camped out for hours, some since the previous day, braving the brisk Dutch wind to secure the closest possible spot to the stage. Pop-up BTS-themed stalls line the surrounding streets, selling purple cupcakes, exclusive fan-made banners, and memorabilia referencing Jin's military discharge and solo projects. Portable speakers blasted BTS tracks on repeat, with the crowd singing along in multiple languages, turning the area into a miniature festival ground. Then, just as excitement seemed to reach its natural limit, rumors began to slither through the crowd. Jimin had been spotted at Schiphol Airport. Unconfirmed videos surfaced online, blurry and grainy, showing a figure in a black bucket hat and oversized hoodie being escorted by security through a private exit. The man's face was hidden, but the way he moved, the tilt of the head, the relaxed gait, ignited speculation instantly. Within minutes, hashtags like #Jimin in Amsterdam and #JinJimin reunion surged into the global top 5 trending topics. Inside the arena, the speculation was impossible to ignore. While the LED screens cycled through bold JIN graphics in preparation for the show, there were sudden flickers of unidentified silhouettes and cryptic lyric fragments, enough to feed every theory that a surprise was coming. Stage technicians were spotted conducting extra sound checks earlier in the day, something unusual for a standard solo concert. Those close enough swore they heard harmonies in rehearsal that didn't belong to Jin alone. For many fans, the emotional stakes were overwhelming. It had been years since Jin and Jimin had shared a stage, their careers diverging through solo projects and mandatory military service. Jin had embraced grand, theatrical ballads while Jimin had explored more vulnerable, R&B-infused territory. The thought of those two distinct artistic voices reuniting live was almost too much for some attendees to process. Several admitted online they were crying before the concert even began. By 7:30 p.m., the entire Ziggo Dome was vibrating with anticipation. Chants of Jimin, Jimin and Jimin, Jimin rolled like waves across the audience. The lights dimmed briefly for pre-show adjustments, and each time they did, the arena erupted into deafening screams, convinced the surprise moment was about to strike. When the clock finally ticked toward the scheduled start time, the tension inside was almost unbearable. Then, the blackout. Total darkness fell over the dome. A single spotlight ignited at the far end of the runway-style stage. Out of the shadows, a slow-moving figure began to emerge. At first, there was nothing to identify them, just polished black boots, the hem of a billowing coat, the steady rhythm of steps cutting through the silence. The camera feed on the giant screens teased the audience mercilessly, showing only fragments, a hand adjusting the coat, the profile of a jawline half hidden in shadow. When a flash of silver hair finally caught the light, the crowd erupted into a roar so loud the arena floor seemed to tremble. The coat slipped slightly, revealing Jimin in an all-black ensemble, smirking just enough to let the audience know he was fully aware of the chaos he had unleashed. No announcement, no introduction, just pure, unfiltered shock. Jin, already on the main stage, turned mid-intro and froze for a fraction of a second. His reaction was visible even from the upper tiers, a broad, unplanned grin stretching across his face. He strode toward the runway without hesitation, meeting Jimin at center stage. They clasped hands, and the sound inside the dome swelled to a level that bordered on physical pain. The opening piano chords of Promise, one of Jimin's most emotionally charged songs and rarely performed live, began to play. The audience barely had time to register the choice before Jin's voice joined in, seamlessly harmonizing as though they had rehearsed in secret for months. Fans filmed through tears, their phone cameras shaking uncontrollably, unwilling to miss even a second. In the middle of the song, the two exchanged a glance, brief but loaded with unspoken history, brotherhood, and relief. As the final note faded, a moment of stunned silence swept through the audience, followed by the loudest cheer of the night. Jin, cheeks flushed, took the microphone and addressed the crowd. "Amsterdam, you didn't think I'd come here without bringing someone special, did you?" The dome erupted again. Jimin, visibly shy, laughed and covered his face before leaning toward the mic. "I've missed you all." From that point on, the concert transformed. What was meant to be a solo showcase evolved into a spontaneous reunion, with the two trading verses, duetting on both old fan favorites and previously unperformed tracks. The encore turned into a celebration, with Jin and Jimin visibly feeding off the crowd's energy. Online, the reaction was instantaneous and ferocious. Within an hour, clips of the moment Jimin appeared had racked up millions of views across platforms. Analysts noted the unique cultural weight of the reunion, not just for BTS fans, but for the K-pop industry as a whole, as it signaled a new chapter for members returning from military service. Jungkook's absence added another layer of mystery. While there was no official explanation, theories ranged from scheduling conflicts to strategic planning for a future group moment. Whatever the reason, the night belonged to Jin and Jimin, and to the fans who witnessed an unrepeatable piece of music history. By the time the dome emptied into the cold Amsterdam night, one sentiment dominated the air. Those 17,000 people had been present for something that would be spoken of in hushed, reverent tones for decades. Not a planned collaboration, not a promotional stunt, just two artists, brothers in every way that mattered, colliding again under a sea of purple lights. It was a night when the impossible happened without warning, and it left the world asking when, not if, it will happen again. Even after the house lights came up and the last confetti drifted to the ground, many fans refused to leave the Ziggo Dome. Small clusters gathered in the aisles and on the concourse, rewatching the footage they had just recorded, screaming again as though the moment was happening for the first time. Outside, the scene was no calmer. The plaza in front of the venue became a sea of purple light sticks, glowing in the night as fans hugged, cried, and tried to put into words what they had just experienced. Social media timelines were flooded with shaky videos, zoomed-in photographs of Jimin's first step onto the runway, and emotional captions in dozens of languages. Theories began almost instantly. How long had the two been planning this? Did they rehearse in secret? Was there a hidden meaning behind performing Promise instead of one of BTS's major hits? Every frame of the appearance was analyzed, from the way Jin's grin spread in real time to the precise second Jimin's hand clasped his. International fans, many watching through live stream snippets, described the event as one of the most important BTS moments post-enlistment. Commentators noted the rare rawness of the performance. Stripped of excessive stage effects, the focus was entirely on the connection between the two. Industry insiders speculated that the surprise could signal the beginning of a new phase for BTS, one where members' solo careers and joint performances intertwine in unpredictable ways. By the next morning, major entertainment outlets worldwide were running headlines about the Amsterdam shock appearance. Flight tracking enthusiasts even began tracing possible routes Jimin might have taken to avoid detection, while fans at Schiphol shared stories of seeing extra security in restricted areas. In the end, one fact remained undeniable. For a single night in the Netherlands, the world's eyes turned to a single stage, where a surprise reunion rewrote the expectations of a concert and reminded millions of the unbreakable bond that keeps BTS and their fans united. The events that unfolded at the Ziggo Dome in Amsterdam have been described as nothing short of historic. Yet, in the aftermath of the apparent reunion between BTS members Jin and Jimin, a pressing question emerges. Was this extraordinary moment an undeniable reality, or could it have been a carefully engineered spectacle designed to ignite the global media machine? The power of this incident to dominate social networks and news cycles is undeniable, but does its virality alone validate its authenticity, or does it demand a closer, more skeptical examination? From the initial unverified airport sightings to the sudden on-stage appearance, the narrative has been pieced together almost entirely from digital fragments, shaky smartphone recordings, grainy photos, rapid-fire tweets, and live-stream excerpts. But can such crowdsourced material serve as reliable evidence? Or are these merely the raw ingredients of a viral phenomenon, susceptible to manipulation? How many of the so-called eyewitness accounts are genuinely independent, and how many are shaped by the echo chamber of fan speculation? The timeline itself raises legitimate questions. If Jimin's arrival in Amsterdam had been genuinely unplanned and spontaneous, how could stage lighting, sound arrangements, and the performance of Promise have been executed so seamlessly? Does this level of coordination not suggest deliberate preparation? And if there was preparation, why was the audience left to rely solely on rumor and unverified media instead of receiving confirmation from credible, accountable sources? Furthermore, the emotional magnitude of the performance cannot be ignored. Thousands in tears, hashtags dominating global trends, and instant analysis flooding every digital platform. But is emotional impact a reliable measure of truth? Could it be that the heightened sentiment was precisely the outcome anticipated by those orchestrating the event, knowing that intense emotional reactions reduce critical distance and make audiences more likely to accept what they see without demanding verification? The origin of the information is equally critical to examine. Reports and visuals circulated primarily through platforms such as TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and unofficial fan blogs. While these mediums are powerful tools for immediate dissemination, they are not inherently designed for rigorous fact-checking. How many of the viral videos were edited before publication? How many photographs could have been staged or even digitally altered? And in an era where artificial intelligence can generate hyper-realistic imagery, how certain can any viewer be that the scenes they watched were untouched by technological enhancement? Even the absence of Jungkook, which was noted repeatedly during the coverage, demands analysis. Was it a mere scheduling conflict, or was his non-appearance part of a larger narrative structure designed to heighten the perceived rarity of this reunion? Could the storyline of two brothers meeting again after years be a calculated device, one that tugs at the deepest emotional loyalties of the BTS fandom while subtly directing attention towards specific marketing goals? It is also worth noting that the event's supposed secrecy, far from reducing its impact, amplified it exponentially. Was this secrecy genuine, a tightly guarded surprise, or was it a controlled leak, released strategically into the fan community to create an unstoppable wave of speculation? The fact that hashtags reached global trending status within minutes suggests a coordinated push, either by fans acting spontaneously or by unseen forces ensuring that visibility metrics exploded at the precise moment desired. The psychological mechanism at play here is profound. Fans, driven by loyalty and emotional investment, are predisposed to interpret any ambiguous signal as evidence of authenticity. This predisposition, while powerful, can also be exploited. If a dramatic reunion could be simulated convincingly enough to satisfy the audience in the moment, how many would later question whether it had truly been what it appeared to be? And if they did question it, would they be willing to accept a less romantic truth? In assessing the credibility of this event, one must apply the same rigor used in evaluating any high-impact, high-visibility media occurrence. Who benefits from the public believing this was real? What measurable gains, ticket sales, streaming numbers, merchandise demand have resulted since the performance? Are there financial or strategic incentives for maintaining ambiguity? And critically, if later evidence emerged proving that certain elements had been staged, would the global reaction be one of betrayal? Or would fans embrace the spectacle regardless of its authenticity? The role of modern fandom culture must also be considered. In an environment where emotional moments are instantly immortalized and replayed across millions of screens, the line between reality and narrative becomes increasingly porous. Was this reunion a documentary moment in pop culture history, or was it a performance layered with intentional myth-making? Is the audience complicit in constructing this myth by repeating and amplifying unverified accounts until they feel indistinguishable from confirmed fact? At the heart of this discussion lies a critical responsibility to distinguish between emotional truth and factual truth. An event can feel true, move audiences deeply, and still be partially or wholly manufactured. In the age of algorithm-driven content and instant digital reproduction, does the truth even matter as much as the collective experience? Or is the emotional impact itself the commodity being sold, with factual accuracy reduced to a secondary concern? We must therefore confront the possibility that this article, along with every video, post, and photograph surrounding the Ziggo Dome performance, could be a product of intentional sensationalism. Could this narrative be functioning as a large-scale social experiment, testing how quickly and completely a global audience will accept and defend an unverified claim when it aligns with their desires? If so, what does this reveal about our capacity to separate wish fulfillment from objective fact? The only reasonable conclusion at this stage is that the matter remains unresolved. The visual and anecdotal evidence is compelling, but its sources are inherently compromised by bias, emotional investment, and lack of independent verification. To accept this story without scrutiny is to surrender the critical faculties necessary for navigating the modern information landscape. Thus, the challenge is placed squarely before you, the reader. Do you truly believe that what happened in Amsterdam was an unfiltered, authentic reunion? Or do you suspect that somewhere, behind the blinding lights and the deafening cheers, there exists a calculated design to provoke precisely the reaction you are feeling now? And if that design exists, will you demand proof, or will you allow the spectacle to be enough? In a world where reality and performance are increasingly inseparable, the choice between belief and skepticism is no longer optional. It is the last safeguard against becoming an uncritical participant in the narratives others create for us.